if you want a tip from me, I guess maybe it would be, I think the best thing to do is just be yourself, you know, just be out there, smile at everybody, and don't try to be too cool, but don't try to be, you know, too happy, you know, just be yourself.
So, who is Ryan Gosling? Ryan Thomas Gosling was born in Canada on the 12th of November in 1980. Quite frankly, in the same hospital as Justin Bieber was born in. No wonder this guy has so many talents, because ever since he was young, he loved to perform. From singing, to dancing, to being a comedian, he simply had it all. Ryan was also a member of the Mickey Mouse Club, where he performed alongside celebrities such as Justin Timberlake,
Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears.
Wow.
And that's Ryan Reynolds.
But Ryan wasn't really a big fan of school. Apparently in grade 1, he saw the movie Rambo and brought steak knives to school and threw them at children during lunch break.
The movie put a spell on me, and I thought I was Rambo, and I got suspended, and I didn't hit anybody. So and I'm sorry.
He then dropped out of high school when he was 17 to fully focus on his acting career. Now, Ryan continued to appear on television in various shows and series. For example, in Young Hercules, which, according to himself, is a performance that doesn't get enough recognition.
What do we need to do to make sure that your work on Young Hercules is more recognized?
I don't know what it's gonna take, truthfully. You know, I had a fake tan, leather pants, was fighting imaginary monsters. They weren't really there, but I was acting like they were there.
This interview is gonna change that.
No, I got you, Ryan. This video is gonna change that. Because Young Hercules became his ticket to real cinema. And a few years later, he gained his greatest fame after starring in The Notebook, which we will talk more about later. Some other cool facts: Ryan Gosling had a band called Dead Man's Bones, and his artist name was Baby Goose. You can still listen to his music on YouTube. He has 2 daughters with his wife Eva Mendes, who also plays his wife in Place Beyond the Pines. And last but not least, he has several tattoos, one of which he did himself.
Not great.
What did you do?
Like a chicken, you know, making love with a cactus or something. I don't know what happened.
Alright, now let's begin with Ryan's early movies and work our way all the way up to his most recent ones so that we can see the full evolution of Ryan Gosling. Ryan's first ever appearance in a feature film was in Frankenstein and Me, and he is probably the only reason you should watch this. The 14-year-old Gosling already appears as an alpha male who managed to win over the only girl in the entire desert.
This is Karen. She's from Ohio. We're going together.
Where are you going? She's his girlfriend, dummy.
Other than that, the film is basically about a few kids trying to resurrect a puppet of Frankenstein. Remember the Titans. From here, it starts getting a bit better. This movie tells the story of 2 American football teams, one filled with white kids and one with black kids who are constantly trying to boycott each other. Until Coach Denzel Washington shows up and humiliates everybody. Wakes them up in the middle of the night, makes them do 1,000,000 push-ups, and then magically everybody becomes best friends. Gosling starts off playing a little racist kid who just walks around and feels the hatred, but he stops being racist after a few scenes, and then we get to know his passion for country music.
Yes, this one.
So if you're really into American football and want to see Ryan Gosling sing Ain't No Mountain High, then definitely check out this movie.
Ain't no valley low enough.
Blue, shut up.
The Believer. Now this movie is really interesting, because not only is it Ryan Gosling's first leading film role, it's also the first movie where we see what he is capable of as an actor. He plays a 19-year-old skinhead who develops very strong anti-Semitic feelings, despite having a Jewish background himself. You can see how Gosling is trying to show the world that he is ready to play on the big screen, and that it's not a problem for him to play someone who is full of hatred, but is very emotional at the same time. This movie is an underrated gem. It's dark, but very interesting, and Gosling puts in a very impressive early performance. Murder by Numbers. Fun fact, Ryan Gosling met his former girlfriend Sandra Bullock on this film. Ryan plays another high school baddie who teams up with a rich kid to plan and commit the perfect murder, and Sandra Bullock plays a detective. It's not that special, just 2 friends committing a crime. We are, however, starting to see that Ryan Gosling is willing to go to great lengths to get rid of the stigma he earned as a child actor. Previously, we saw him playing a goofy football player, but in A Slaughter Rule, Ryan is in search of something more complex, and starts to question his masculinity, living a lonely existence in the grim, snow-covered outback where you're either a football player or a complete loser. And in the United States of Leland, Gosling immerses himself in the mind of a criminal. But throughout the movie, his life is uncovered, and you realize not everything is just black and white. It's in this period that a certain melancholy or sadness enters his movies. A lot of them have a bittersweet ending. They linger on in your mind, and you can't stop thinking about them, which is setting the tone for Gosling's famous lonely characters that come back in his later films, such as in Drive, Place Beyond the Pines, Blade Runner, and many more. But first, The Notebook. Gosling was 22 years old when filming The Notebook, and as I said earlier, this movie was his major breakthrough. An epic love story set against the backdrop of World War II, of 2 lovers being separated from each other and after years reunite again. It already sounds like something that will break your heart, and it's okay. You may cry now. This is not yet La La Land, but after this film, Gosling has definitely established himself as a hero of such films. And for directors, that meant, here comes the money. because it's almost like they saw Ryan Gosling's happy face and thought,
The hoes gon' love this.
I mean, look at his eyes, almost like a sad dog staring at you. This brings us to the movie Stay, which is basically Ryan Gosling's Donnie Darko. Depressed college student Ryan Gosling? I relate. There are so many scenes shot at a 45-degree angle that by the end of the movie, your perception of the world will have shifted by 45 degrees. This movie introduced Ryan to major league actors like Ewan McGregor, who plays a psychiatrist, and Ryan Gosling as the patient. This is one of those early Gosling films that is definitely worth checking out, and certainly leaves some strong emotions. Even though Ryan Gosling never won an Oscar, he did get 2 nominations, one for La La Land and one for Half Nelson. In Half Nelson, he plays a high school teacher in a poor neighborhood and teaches the students not just history, but he gives them life lessons as well, trying to make them understand that everything worthwhile requires hard work. Even though this is a noble message, outside of his classroom, his life is in shambles. He has a distant relationship with his family and he is heavily on the substances. Lars and the Real Girl. This one is truly something. Ryan plays a lonely, socially awkward guy who finally brings home the girl of his dreams. The only problem is that she is not real. She's a doll that he ordered off the internet.
She's shy.
Now, I know what you're thinking, but it's not what Lars has in mind, because due to certain mental disorders, he can't interact with girls. I must say this is a movie that can make you cry and laugh at the same time. Just like Blue Valentine.
What's your name?
Go away.
Go away.
Go away.
That's a weird name.
This movie was specifically written for Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams, because Ryan was going through a breakup with Rachel McAdams and Michelle was still recovering from the death of her husband, Heath Ledger. It shows a couple caught in a downward spiral, basically the movie A Marriage Story but with Ryan Gosling. Where The Notebook shows love more as a fairy tale, this movie is definitely real. Lastly, there's Fracture, which doesn't really fit into this category, but it is made in the same period. The chemistry between lawyer Ryan Gosling and villain Anthony Hopkins is eerily similar to that of Agent Clarice and Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. Therefore, I approve. Now, Sigma Ryan Gosling. If I had to recommend 3 movies from the previous categories, it would be The Believer, Stay, and Half Nelson, because these amazing performances do not yet confine Gosling's acting to the role of the mysterious Sigma or the hero of a girl's fantasies, like we see in his later movies such as Drive. Anybody else noticed how in this movie Ryan Gosling is playing me? What separates Drive from other action movies according to Ryan Gosling is that the story has a very strong character at its core and a powerful romance. Gosling is almost like a dynamite in this role. Silent, stoic, radiating mystery, ready to explode. Very similar to how Clint Eastwood was often portrayed in cowboy movies. Director Nicholas Refn almost wanted to cast Hugh Jackman at first. Can you imagine a universe where that happened? To prepare for his role, Ryan Gosling bought the car that he is driving in the movie from an actual junkyard. He took it apart entirely and then rebuilt it to feel more connected to his character. Nicholas Refn explained in an interview that he would drive around LA with Ryan, just talking and listening to music, and he would tell him, "This is what we want to capture in the movie. This feeling of being entranced in a car with pop music playing and simply drive." Well, my guy, it definitely worked. Crazy Stupid Love. This movie is How to Pick Up Girls, Ryan Gosling edition. The premise is simple. Steve Carell divorces his wife and Ryan Gosling is gonna help him get some riz.
I'm gonna help you rediscover your manhood. Do you have any idea, like, where you lost it?
Richard Gosling is basically taken on the role of Tyler Durden and Steve Carell the narrator in Fight Club, helping him rediscover his manliness. The chemistry between Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling is like La La Land, but without the musical part. And the way everything comes together in the end, man, it's genius. The Ides of March. I don't like politics, but this movie kept me engaged because of Ryan Gosling. I mean the brilliant script of George Clooney. Ryan Gosling is maneuvering his way around this sneaky world as a campaign manager during the election race, switching up his attitudes like the colors of a chameleon.
People are scared of you because they don't understand how you do it, and they love you for it. And that is the most valuable thing in this business.
Everyone manipulates, everyone is corrupt, but to see the truth, I only need to sit in front of the TV or the internet for 5 minutes, so skip Clooney, Ryan Gosling for president. Now, The Place Beyond the Pines was another movie I wanted to see for a long time, and this director understood the assignment. Face-tatted Ryan Gosling riding his motorcycle through the woods and robbing banks is what we came to see. By the way, this is what Ryan had to say about his face tattoo.
When I was like holding that kid, I just felt all this shame that I looked this way and that I had made these decisions to look this way, and it really did kind of, it added something to the performance that I never could have.
Halfway through the movie, the narrative suddenly switches to Bradley Cooper's life, which almost made me want to turn it off, but just keep watching, it gets better. Gangster Squad. The only thing that really made this movie bearable were Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, but it was so stylized and filled with boring dialogues that even they couldn't save it from its fate. Ryan Gosling has always been a goofy guy since he was young. We saw it here and there in his earlier films like Remember the Titans, then in Crazy Stupid Love, and later in the comedy drama The Big Short. This movie is hilarious when you realize most of the financial markets are just one big Ponzi scheme.
Dog shit.
and Ryan Gosling trying to explain that reminded me a lot of Matthew McConaughey from The Wolf of Wall Street. It's all a fugazi, it's all fairy dust. But to make it easier for us, they were so kind to hire Margot Robbie in a bubble bath to explain mortgage bonds. This is the first time Gosling and Margot Robbie appear somewhat together in one movie, but as we all know, it's not the last.
Hi, Ken.
I drive.
The Nice Guys. This is one of those movies that is so bad it actually becomes good. It's a classic buddy cop movie where Ryan Gosling embraces his inner comedian and plays the dumb detective and Russell Crowe the smart one. For some reason it reminded me a lot of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Same actress, same setting, colors, camera work, but even though the movie was quite funny, it didn't get a sequel because it's not for everybody. Now on to modern Ryan Gosling. La La Land. Remember when they accidentally announced La La Land as the winner of the Oscars, but then Moonlight was the actual winner? I love this guy. But here's a story. A friend of mine had been recommending me this movie for 6 years and for some reason I've just been putting it off. I resented musicals and let's be honest, most of the time musicals are like, oh, we have a really big problem, now let's sing together. But this time, I was wrong, because to me, this is cinema. It hit like a brick, man, I'm not gonna lie. Typecasting Ryan Gosling was just perfect because of his background as a musician and a dancer, and he took jazz piano lessons every day for 4 months, learning to play all the music himself.
I didn't have a choice. The director wanted to shoot all of these musical sequences in one shot, and he'd been dreaming about this his whole life, so it was either shatter his dreams or
Ryan Gosling really should have gotten an Oscar for that role, but luckily Emma Stone took one home.
Ryan Gosling, thank you for making me laugh, and for always raising the bar, and for being the greatest partner on this crazy adventure.
If it wasn't for those two actors, I simply wouldn't have watched it, but you can give me a musical with Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling at any time.
Anytime, anywhere.
Blade Runner 2049. This was the first Ryan Gosling movie I ever watched. I was 16 at the time, I'm 21 now, and my first reaction after leaving the cinema was,
This whole thing, all of this, it's all about me.
literally nobody was in the theater at the time, it was a box office flop and never heard a single person talk about it until a few years ago. Maybe it was the pandemic that revealed the truth behind this film, or because Ryan Gosling was playing me, but this movie perfectly combines the dystopian philosophy of The Matrix and the love story with an AI in Her. In a world where it becomes harder and harder to distinguish reality from fiction, does it matter if something is artificial when it feels real? By the way, I'm starting to see a recurring theme here. First Ryan Gosling was dating a doll in Lars and a Real Girl, then an AI in Blade Runner, and next will be another doll in Barbie.
You don't like real girls.
Either way, Ryan Gosling and neon lighting is a deadly combo. 10 out of 10. First Man. This is another movie from Damien Chazelle and Ryan Gosling, this time about the moon landing. Or should I say, the La La landing. I watched this movie on the big screen and was blown away by the music and the realism of it all. Ryan Gosling playing Neil Armstrong is a really underrated performance, and even though he doesn't show many emotions, again, it's all in the eyes, man.
The eyes, Chico. They never lied.
Lastly, we have The Gray Man, and this movie is basically Ryan Gosling's John Wick.
Talk about action, on top of action, on top of action.
And then more action.
And then more action.
And then some sneaky action.
Yeah, and they snuck a little action.
It kind of reminded me of the big budget Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Willis action movies of the 80s and 90s.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother. I drive.
But come on, we're getting Ryan Gosling and Ana de Armas in one action movie? I can't complain. Now let's talk about future Ryan Gosling. Throughout his career, Ryan Gosling has developed certain characteristics and mannerisms that stuck with him. He often plays one of two personalities, the oversharing, irresistible woman magnet Ryan Gosling, or the lonely Ryan Gosling with minimal to no emotional expression. But even though he's often put in one of these two boxes, Ryan Gosling will never let you know his next move. Because in 2014, he wrote and directed his first movie, which was really good, and you can see his inspiration from directors he worked with, especially Nicholas Refn and Terrence Malick. Perhaps Ryan will get more into directing in the future. He loves picking those unique and unpredictable roles that nobody sees coming, like playing Ken in the Barbie movie. Now, as we saw in the new Barbie trailer, it's going to be like this comedic Truman Show / Escape the Matrix type story of Barbie and Ken leaving the plastic world to explore the real world and see how long they last. I'm definitely gonna make a full video about it, and if you're watching this from the future, it might already be out. In 2024, we'll get to unlock another character because Ryan Gosling is working on a film called The Fall Guy, where he will be playing a past his prime stuntman turning into a bounty hunter. We are very lucky to be living in this Ryan Gosling renaissance, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the things he has in store for us. If I had to make a top 5 out of all of his movies, I would put The Place Beyond the Pines at number 5 because it almost made me want to get a motorbike. At number 4, I would put Crazy Stupid Love because of Richard Gosling and it's just the perfect feel-good movie. Number 3 goes to Drive, because I'm in it of course. At number 2, I would put La La Land. I was so surprised by how good it was and it did the impossible, it made me like a musical. And the first place will always go to Blade Runner 2049. It was the first Ryan Gosling movie I ever watched, so if you want to start your Ryan Gosling journey, I got you.